Hey guys, YouTuber100 here. Alright, and now continuing my Nightmare on Elm Street Friday the 13th series of reviews. Now, here's my review of Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. Yeah, so this was actually pretty decent right here. Yeah, I mean, yeah, considering how the last two Friday the 13th movies have been for me, this one was actually pretty decent in comparison, yeah. Yeah, this one, yeah, Jason came back since being killed in part 4, yeah. Yeah, and, yeah, like I said, this is pretty decent. This actually was pretty decent in comparison to the part 4 and part 5, yeah, especially part 5, yes. Since part 5 was a big letdown since it didn't have Jason at all, yeah. Yeah, since they decided to bring him back, yeah, I guess this one was that's why this one turned out being real good. Pretty good. Yeah. So, yeah, I'd give this one about 3 stars out of 4. Yeah. And so, yeah. And, yeah, in this movie, Tommy is still back. Yeah. I I thought, considering how the part 5 ended, I thought that was going to be the last one Tommy was in, but no. Yeah, he's still here in part 6. Yeah. And, yeah. So, and yeah, we finally got in this one, Jason finally stalking and trying to kill some children here. I mean, 6 movies in, and this is the first time that he's done it. And it's, so, yeah, like I said, I give this one about 3 stars out of 4. Alright, so yeah, let me just jump right into the review, alright? So the movie starts off where, like, Tommy and one of his friends are heading to the cemetery where Jason's body was buried. And they dig up his grave, and yeah, they dig his grave up and dig up his body, and yeah, Tommy wanted to cremate it, but yeah, Tommy was starting to have some flashbacks about when he killed Jason in part 4, and so yeah, he grabbed a metal fence post and started to stab Jason with it several times, and, and then and then a lightning all of a sudden struck the post, and then yeah, Jason then came back to life. We saw his eye open, and and yeah, Jason, and then yeah, Jason came back to life, and Tommy was carrying his Jason's hockey mask, and yeah, Jason now became like supernatural and is much stronger than he was before. Then he killed Tommy's friend just by punching straight through his body and like punching his heart out. And then Tommy just barely got away. And then yeah, Jason put his mask back on. And yeah, and then Tommy then just like fled to the sheriff's station, and he tries to tell the sheriff what's happening, but the sheriff doesn't believe him. And then he just thinks Tommy's hallucinating, and he just has Tommy locked up overnight. And then there are these 2 new camp supervisors. Yeah, and this movie, the camp name changes from Camp Crystal Lake to Camp Forest Green. And so yeah, there are 2 other camp counselors, and they're like driving off, and then they come across Jason and in the road, and yeah, they're trying to like say that he's just trying to like scare them, and if they like get real close to him, he'll move, and then they like just drive right up in front of him, and Jason still doesn't move, and then yeah, one of them, yeah, the guy then comes out, he's trying to tell him to move, and then yeah, Jason ends up killing the 2 of them, and with fence post, yeah. Yeah, and then the next morning, the sheriff's daughter, Megan, and some of her friends who are camp counselors, there's this year at the camp, Court, Sissy, and Paula, they arrive, and they report those other 2 missing. And Tommy is still trying to tell them that Jason is back, and once again the sheriff still doesn't believe him. And yeah, yeah, Tommy's warnings are just being shrugged off as superstition. And then yeah, later on, back at the cemetery, the caretaker sees that Jason's grave has been dug up, and yeah, I forgot to say earlier that Jason stuck Tommy's friend's body in the the coffin he was in, and then yeah, the caretaker then just buried the grave back up, yeah, yeah, and then there are like these businessmen that are in the woods playing paintball, something, and as one of the guys is just like having a fit or something, Jason then comes across him and then just rips his arm completely off, and then takes the machete that the guy was holding in his arm, yeah. And then yeah, Jason then just like falls from the sky out of nowhere and then just beheads three of other of the paintballers, and then yeah, and then there was one more that tried to shoot Jason with a paintball and it had no effect, and then he just ran away with Jason following him. Yeah. And then the sheriff was escorting Tommy out of Forest Green, and then Tommy just like turned off the roadway, and the sheriff and his deputy chased after him. And then Tommy eventually made a run on foot for it. He tried to like lure them to Jason's grave, but the sheriff caught Tommy before he could get to the grave. And then yeah, but the sheriff saw that the grave was just buried back up, and yeah, was just saying basically saying that Tommy was lying. And then yeah, the caretaker then approached them, and yeah, he obviously didn't want to be blamed for Jason's grave being dug up, so he just went along with that it was never dug up, and then yeah, and then the sheriff and his deputy then just like drove Tommy out of Forest Green County in the police car. Oh yeah. And then later that night, like Cord is like in his in an RV with a girl named Nikki, and yeah, they're like having sex with each other, and then Jason then comes across the RV and he cuts the power, and then yeah, they eventually then drive off as Cord's driving, and he's just like playing real loud music, and it turns out Jason was hiding in the bathroom of the RV, and he pulled Nikki in and just crushed her, like pressing her right through a mirror, and you can actually see like her face was impelling through the other side. Yeah, and then Jason then used a combat knife and shoved it right through Court's skull, and yeah, that made the RV crash. And then yeah, later on the sheriff got a call that he needed to come out there. He needed to come out there because the police had found some dead bodies or something. Yeah. And yeah, and then later on, Tommy called Megan again, and yeah, he said that he came up with a plan. He needed to speak to the sheriff, but yeah, Megan told Tommy that she needed to go pick him up because yeah, her dad, the sheriff, still thought that Tommy was behind this, and he was just trying to make everyone think that Jason was existing when he wasn't. But really, this was just going on throughout the entire movie. I mean, seriously, the sheriff was just in complete denial that Jason Jason was back, and yeah, he just didn't want to believe it. And I'm like, I was just like thinking, okay, how long are you gonna keep this up? Why don't you just eat your pride and just face the facts that Jason is back? And why don't you just believe Tommy already? I mean, because yeah, this was going on throughout the entire movie. I'm just like, why won't you just believe him already? Yeah, so yeah, Megan decided to go pick up Tommy since the sheriff knew what Tommy's car looked like, and so yeah. And then yeah, she eventually did go after him. And yeah. Yeah. And then, and yeah, eventually the sheriff and the police found the bodies of like the paintballers and Nikki and Court, yeah. And yeah, the sheriff was just still assuming that Tommy was behind all of it. Yeah, it's just making them thinking that Jason has returned, yeah. And then eventually they, like, the Maggie, what the Maggie? I don't know what I'm saying, I'm sorry. Yeah, then Egan and Tommy eventually, like, come across the police in a roadblock. They try to escape, hey, but then they get caught by the sheriff, Megan's dad. And yeah, he sees that Tommy was in the car with her, and then they take Tommy back to the station. And yeah, and then, yeah, he just tells the deputy to lock Tommy up in the cell again, yeah. And then later on, there's one of the little girls at the camp named Nancy. So yeah, I mean, she's just thinking that she just feels that there is a monster out there, and yeah, two other of the other counselors, Sissy and Paula, are just like trying to calm her down and just get her to go back to sleep. Yeah, yeah, and then eventually, like, he like Jason went got to the camp cabin, and then yeah, he eventually caught Sissy and killed her by just like twisting her head and snapping her neck. Yeah, and then it later on it showed like Paula going to, I mean Nancy going to Paula, and it showed like she was holding Jason's machete. She was saying that she found it outside, and yeah, Paula was just taking Nancy back to the cabin, and then eventually back at the station, Tommy and Megan came up with a plan on how Tommy could get set free, and then yeah, Megan and Tommy kissed, and then the deputy was bringing it up, and then the Megan took his gun and pointed it at him, basically forcing him to let Tommy out, and then yeah, and then Tommy and Megan forced the deputy to step into the cell, and then they locked him up, and then yeah, they then went off to the camp, you know, and then and then yeah, Jason then eventually made it inside of the girls' cabin at the camp, and yeah, he was like standing over Nancy, and he was like bending down. Nancy was just like making a prayer or something, saying like she was just having a nightmare or something. And then yeah, eventually the sheriff and the police arrived at the camp, and then yeah, Jason then walked off as Nancy opened her eyes and she saw Jason was gone. Yeah, and yeah, Paulo then like went back to her cabin where Jason then eventually killed her. Yeah. And then yeah, all the police were just like investigating all around the camp. And yeah, Jason was just killing them like one by one. Like he threw like a dart into one of their eyes. And then Jason like ripped the head off of another one. And, and then yeah, Nancy was just still like walking around the police. They were trying to calm her down, and she eventually came to the sheriff. And yeah, the sheriff took her back to the cabin, and yeah, he made the boys come with him back to the girls' cabin, and he told all the kids to just hide under the beds and wait there until he gets back. And then he saw the guy. He like fell over and saw the guy that Jason ripped the head off of, and then he then came across Jason, and he tried shooting him, and Jason fell down, but he just kept sitting up all the time. And then yeah, the sheriff then eventually just ran. And then Megan and Tommy, he then arrived at the camp. Megan was trying to call her dad for help, and yeah, she was just calling for her dad, and then yeah, Jason was hearing the calls too, and then the sheriff tried to stop Jason from getting to her. he was like ramming him with sticks and rock and stuff, but Jason then eventually just bent his entire upper body completely in half. And yeah, Tommy was then setting up the trap to kill Jason. He was like tying up a big chain to a rock where he was gonna have the other end of the chain wrapped around Jason's neck. And yeah, Tommy sent Megan back to the cabin to make sure Jason didn't get the children. And yeah, Jason then eventually did get in the cabin with all the children. Yeah, Megan stopped Jason from getting them. And yeah, Jason was about to kill Megan, but then Tommy was calling for Jason to come out to the lake. And yeah, Jason then came to the lake, and yeah, Jason was like, he was hearing like the screams from Megan and also Tommy. And yeah, Jason just kept like turning around, and Tommy was just calling Jason a bunch of names like an asshole and a pussy and a chicken shit and everything. Yeah. And then yeah, Jason then was walking more to Tommy, who was in a motorboat in the lake. Yeah, and then Jason just like went completely under the water, and Tommy couldn't see where Jason was. And then yeah, he then like poured gasoline all around the water where the boat was, and then yeah, he lit a match, and then yeah, fire then started. There was like a ring of fire around the boat, and then yeah, Jason then eventually he emerged from the water and was trying to like pull Tommy into the water, and then Tommy just like nailed Jason, and Jason just went back underwater. Then Jason appeared back up again. This time like he was a little bit on fire, and he was like. Then Tommy eventually did like get the part of the chain around Jason's neck, and yeah, Jason was then going down in the water, but he pulled Tommy down with him, and yeah, they were. Jason was trying to make Tommy drown with him. Yeah. Then eventually, like Megan just saw Tommy floating at the top of the water face down, and then she went out to the water to save him. But then Jason tried to get Megan too, and yeah, Megan then eventually started the motorboat, and it was like going up to Jason's throat, and then it eventually snapped his neck. And yeah, then she brought Tommy back to shore, and yeah, all the kids gathered around, and then yeah, she revived him with some CPR. Yeah, but then on another day, it like zoomed into the lake and it showed Jason's body under there, and then it just had an extreme close-up of Jason's eye, open and glaring. So yeah, he's not dead. Yeah, and that's how the movie ended. So yeah, like I said, 3 stars out of 4. Yeah, it was kind of a yeah, it was definitely a step up from the last 2 Friday the 13th movies. So yeah, alright, so that does it for my review of Friday the 13th Part 6 Jason Lives. I hope you guys enjoyed those reviews. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.